Here, we are partnering with Collider, who has been very generous with their support. They've been fantastic with their online presence. And Steven is going to be hosting this panel with Mr. Charlie Cox. Steven, why don't you come on up? Thanks so much.
How's everyone doing? So, there are at least 5 people here. Ladies and gentlemen, I know you're not here to see me. May I introduce the man, Charlie Cox.
What's up, Vegas?
What's crazy about Comic-Con, and when this must be, is this usual for you, people following you around with all the phones?
Phones?
Yeah, like with all the, pictures.
Yeah, nowadays.
How often do you do Comic-Cons? How often do you get to experience, this kind of love with fandom?
I guess every few months I manage to do one. Sometimes it depends on the time of year. If we're working, it's very hard to get away. When we're not filming the show, I try to see if I can do like one a month, if I can.
Do you have any favorite part about being at Comic-Cons besides the fan interaction? Is there something like you shop for, or?
It sounds like an obvious thing to say, but it's fun to travel the country, and being from the UK, there's lots of parts of this country that I haven't seen, so it's really fun to go to places I've never been before. And also, as an actor, you tend to be surrounded by like friends and family who are always going to tell you you're great. But when you meet fans that have no incentive, they don't know you, they haven't met you before, and they line up to meet you, and they say, "Oh, I love the show. It was really important to me," or "It helped me through a hard time," or whatever. That's really cool that we get to hear that. And so it's really fun to meet you guys. That's probably the best thing.
I have a bunch of questions for you, and then we're going to open it up to the audience to ask questions. And the reason why you see all these toys here, I'm sure you're wondering, like, what WTF is this? McFarlane Toys and Scorpion Comics gave me a whole bunch of stuff to give away at our panels. So basically, anyone who asks a question is going to get a free toy or a free comic.
Cool.
Exactly, free stuff. This is a minor. We've all seen Infinity War, have we not? I just want to make sure we've all seen it. Obviously, Daredevil survives, but do you think any of Daredevil's friends were turned to dust?
I haven't seen Infinity War yet. We only just finished shooting. You know what I mean? I haven't had a chance. I'm really excited to see it, but
it's a good movie.
Thanks for not ruining it for me.
Being honest though, you've heard stuff about the movie.
No, nothing.
Oh, okay. Well then.
Although I've heard apparently some people turn to dust. So
I'm not going to say. We're just going to move past that and jump into other things. I had some fun stuff with Infinity War planned, but nope. How early on do you find out that you're going to be filming a new season of Daredevil? Because it seems like they keep it very mysterious until all of a sudden set photos leak. Then all of a sudden we all know, oh, they're filming season 3. But how early on are you aware of it?
I mean, it depends. It's been different every year. It depends when, sometimes sometimes I might hear that they want to make another season, but they don't know when. Other times I might hear that, they've decided to make another one and we're going to shoot it, in this month or whatever. So, it depends greatly. Obviously, they don't like to publicize where we're shooting or what we're shooting or storylines or characters, because obviously we want it to be a surprise. We want people to watch the show and enjoy the drama of it. Of course, there are many people out there who are desperate to know facts. And so I guess, Marvel, Netflix, their job is to kind of try and keep it as secret as possible.
How involved are you at this point in trying to insert yourself in the writer's room just to hear what they're cooking up?
Not at all. I don't view that as my job at all. I think the writers do a fantastic job and have done from the beginning of this show and all the other shows. And I just wait till I get sent the first script and I read them I very rarely have any kind of thoughts maybe I'll get on the phone with the writer and say, you know what, can we look at this? I'm not sure I understand this quite, but for the most part, I just let them do their job, and I think they do an amazing job.
Did you say you wrapped on season 3, or are you still going?
We wrapped, yeah.
How long ago did you wrap?
I can't tell you that.
Then I'll ask this: when you found out you're doing season 3, how much did you know about the arc of the season prior to filming day 1? How much are you finding it out script by script?
Well, that's a choice. Some actors like to know the whole story from start to finish before we begin. I personally don't like to do that. I don't like to know anything. So I read the scripts episodically as they come in throughout the season. So, when we get to the final episode and we've been shooting for 5-6 months, I still don't know how it's going to end. Other actors don't feel that way. They know from day one, they know everything that's going to happen. But I like to experience the reading of the scripts in the same way that an audience member will devour the show when it comes out. So that if I'm shooting episode 8 and then I read episode 9, if there's something in that that's like shocking or exciting or surprising, if I knew that was going to happen a few months ago, I wouldn't have that same experience in reading it. Does that make sense?
Completely.
Yeah. So I ask to be told nothing. The only thing I like to know is if there's any flashbacks, because if we do flashbacks, in terms of preparing for the character's journey, a flashback is something that happened prior to what you're shooting. So I'd like to know about that.
At this point now, having done 3 seasons, you've obviously gotten more comfortable doing the action. How has your progression filming action helped shape what you can now do on a 3rd season?
Well, technically, it's kind of a 4th season.
Oh, that's true. If you want to mix in Defenders.
Yeah. Well, in terms of experience, it's a 4th season.
Sure.
Yeah. I think it's good. I've been doing it now for 4 years, and when you practice something over a sustained period of time, you tend to get better at it. So what's been really thrilling for me is every season I've been able to do more and more of the action, and that's arguably the best fun that you have when you're shooting. It's hard work, and your body takes its toll on your body, and you feel it as the weeks turn into months, and you get near the end of the season. You can really feel that your body needs a rest, but it's so enjoyable that you kind of get on with it.
I believe they've revealed that Kingpin is coming back in season 3. I think that's out there. What were you excited to have him come back? Is it public knowledge that he's coming back? Is it because Vincent's kind of been public? He's said on Twitter.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Right. I understand. Are you? I'll leave it there alone. I'll move on to the next thing. I'll say. Let me rephrase. How much do you enjoy sharing the screen with Vincent? Because he is a great actor.
Yeah, Vincent D'Onofrio is a tour de force, huh? Look, I don't think I could say enough good things about him. What's great about Vincent is I always think of the scenes that I have with him as requiring very little acting on my part, because he's so scary as Wilson Fisk, and he's so big. So I just know that if I learn my lines and when I say them, it's likely to work because so much of the acting is done for you because of what he brings to a scene.
Since it's just you and me in this room and no one's watching and there's no cameras, I was thinking that you could share your preference. This is obviously a joke a little bit, but how would you rank the Marvel Netflix shows? Do you have a preference besides Daredevil? Do you like Jessica Jones? You know what I mean? Do you have a favorite of the others?
Yeah, there's ones that I like. There's ones that I kind of appeal to my taste more than others. I'd guess you'd say.
Sure. Do you want to share? Or?
Nope. They're like friends of mine. What do you want me to do?
Right, nothing. I mean, but again, no one's watching. How much did you enjoy filming? Listen, a lot of us really loved seeing everyone come together in Defenders, and it was only 8 episodes while all the other shows are 13. Do you think that there's a chance of a Defenders season 2? Is it something that you want to have happen?
I'm so sorry. I hate to kind of shut down so many of these. I'm really asked to not speculate on this stuff. So I really have no idea if they're thinking about it. Honestly, don't. But when it comes to like kind of information about the show and characters and future seasons and the question that everyone loves to ask, which is, am I ever going to be in one of the movies? I
wasn't going to ask that one.
No. I know. I'm just saying that in general. Most of the time I know nothing, and very wisely they tell me nothing. But even if I do, it's kind of difficult because just to even speculate about it in a public forum, it then becomes something that people like to talk about, and then that very quickly that becomes the word of God. I have no idea about Defenders. I know that I had a great time doing the first season. And I love those guys, and I love the work that we did, and I love all of their shows. I feel very proud of this little world. I say little; it now feels very big. But 2014, we started this one show, and in my mind, we were doing one show of a superhero. I didn't know what the big plan was, and I don't even know how much Marvel and Netflix knew what the ultimate plan was. If those first few shows hadn't gone so well, we may not have made the Defenders. I really don't know. But by the grace of God and the great writing and the great producing and directing and acting and every aspect of these shows and the success that they've had have enabled us to kind of create this mini little world that we're now part of. And it's so I see the other guys in the corridors. I'm filming the last episodes of Daredevil, let's say, and there's Kristen starting up season whatever of Jessica, and Finn lives in my building now. You know what I mean? So often, like the other day, I went down to get in the van to go to work, and the driver's there, and he goes, and I look at him and I realize I've never met this guy before in my life, and he's waiting for Finn, not me. But no, I feel very proud. It's very cool.
I'm going to ask you some acting questions. Some people love the Clint Eastwood method of shooting the rehearsal or a take or two, moving on. Others love the Fincher method of shooting 50, 60 takes. How do you typically like to work, and what is it like when you're making Daredevil?
Yeah, it's a really good question. That depends a lot on the scene. If the scene requires a lot of technical stuff, like there's a lot of geography, there's a lot of moving around, maybe there's lots of characters, or there's lots of props involved, especially playing someone who's visually impaired, like the handling of props. If it's very technical, I really want to have enough rehearsal so that I feel like I can say the lines and do the technical stuff, and it not feel like I'm having to remember stuff. Because I always think you can tell if an actor is trying to remember his lines or if you have to cook some meal while you're saying lines. It's just, if you haven't practiced over and over again, it's really hard to do. And you can tell when someone's like trying to remember the lines and then they have to remember to do this and blah, blah, blah. So for those scenes, I really like to have time to rehearse and get it right so that when we shoot it, I feel like it's something that you do as part of your second nature. If it's like an emotional scene, if it's two people chatting and there's an emotion required, I don't want to experience that during the rehearsal. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to feel those very strong feelings, because you can't always. I don't know how many of you guys have ever tried acting of any sort, but for me, and it's different for everyone, but for me, if I have to get very sad in a scene, I can do that maybe 1 or 2, 3 times, but after a while, it's hard to drum up. I can't personally keep doing it over and over again. So I want to make sure that we film the ones where the emotion feels like it's on the surface. It's coming, like I can feel it. Does that make sense?
Completely.
And so often I will, in the rehearsal, I'll ask if we can not even say the lines, just kind of stand where we stand, and I'll just like mime them, say kind of blah, 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 then you speak, blah, 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 blah. Okay, now let's shoot it. And then the first time you shoot it, you say the lines for the first time, and often that will kind of conjure the relevant emotions.
And this, not just for you playing Matt Murdock, Daredevil, but as an actor in general, some actors can leave the character they're playing on set. Like, they walk off set, they flip a switch, and they're back to being themselves. Others take a piece of the character they're playing home at night, like if they're doing a really thick accent or what it might be. How much can you leave the character you're playing on set and come back to being Charlie the minute you walk off set? And how much does a little piece come home with you?
I don't know. I think that's hard to quantify, you know. I don't feel like I take any of the character home with me, but family members, I think, would disagree. You know, when you're... It's hard. It's very hard. The honest answer is I don't know. I think that when you're playing a character, and when you've been I've been playing Matt Murdock now for 4 or 5 years. So, you know, I feel like that character, the way he talks to people, or I feel like I've learned things from him, weirdly. And some of the things that I admire about Matt Murdock, I think subconsciously I maybe have incorporated into my own life a little bit. But for the most part, you know, as soon as someone calls cut, you know, I go home. I'm not thinking about being in character or anything like that. But I just think through a weird, like, if you spend time with someone, if you have like a really, really good friend at high school or whatever, and you spend all of your time with them, you know, often you'll start laughing in the same way, or you like have similar mannerisms. You know what I'm talking about, right? They just, like, people's personality, you don't even know, you don't try and copy them. They just rub off on you a little bit. And I think that's what happens with actors. If you spend a lot of time with this other character, their mannerisms or the way they think or feel or act, often kind of the line between you and them becomes a little blurry, I guess.
I know that you are very careful with what you can say about Daredevil, and you don't want to give anything away. So this is the portion of the conversation where we play random questions with Charlie Cox. And we're going to see if you enjoy this. If you hate it, I will totally stop. What TV show would you love to do a guest spot on?
What TV show? Does it, okay, I have like, for every question I have like 5 questions. Does it have to be on TV right now?
I'm going to say no.
I would love to have done a guest spot on Friends. I love Friends. Like, that's like my creature comfort.
Sure.
You know, go to.
Did you get into it on your own, or was it like someone else who first hooked you into it?
I was at school in the UK, and you know, I guess I was probably 12, 13 when that show came out, and on a Friday night, I remember every Friday night, I was at boarding school, so every Friday night we'd all go to the TV room to watch Friends, and I don't know, it's just, for me, it was like, I feel like that was a show that spoke to my generation. Like, when I was, you know, 15 or 16, I don't know, there was something about the nature of that show, and it always made you feel like, for people who love Friends, it always made you feel like you were the 7th friend. You know what I mean? Like, you felt like you were with those guys. You were one of them.
But also, you were watching it at a time in your life where it's a very important moment. You know, you're having great friends at, you know.
Yeah, and I think you're learning how to be social as an adult for the first time. You're learning about what it is to go out and chat and meet friends and you know, kind of make connections, real connections, and live with people who aren't your family. And so it was poignant in that way.
Do you have a favorite sci-fi or fantasy film?
I guess The Matrix.
Sure.
I think The Matrix is one of the best films ever made. You know, I watch it probably once every year at least, and you know, people often say to me how great the fight scenes are in Daredevil. They really like. A lot of people say, "Oh my God, the fight scenes are so good. The fight scenes are so good." And I was watching The Matrix not so long ago, I mean, like, I don't even know. What year was that? Was that like 98, 99?
It was filmed in 98, came out in
Right,
99.
98, right? So that film came, that was 98. It was 20 years ago. And I was watching that last year, and I'm like, these fight scenes are unbelievable, like today. Like, when people come up to me and they say the fight scenes in Daredevil are really good, I'm thinking, yeah, they must be much better than any fight scene from 20 years ago. But they're not. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the fight scenes at our show, but like that film was so far ahead of its time. It just blows my mind. I love that film. It's really cool as well, because every now and again I get to see Carrie-Anne Moss walking around in the studio, because she's on JJ, right? And she was in the Defenders for a minute, and so it's like I try to keep it cool, but like she's one of my crushes. When I was a kid, Carrie-Anne Moss, are you kidding me? That scene on the roof after the helicopter crashes.
What film really scared you as a kid?
My brother showed me Friday the 13th when I was way too young. You know, that messed me up real good.
That's a good answer. Friday the 13th?
Yeah, I'd say that. That's probably it. I'm just not sure I finished it, you know?
What do you collect anything?
No.
What's the most you've spent on sneakers or shoes?
I'm not a sneaker guy. It blows my mind, man. You know, you see those stores. You know, every now and again, you're walking down the street and there's a line like a mile long, and you're like, what is happening? And then you find out it's for shoes. That blows my mind. You know, I'm not a...
There's a lot of sneakerheads out there. It's a big thing.
Yeah, I'm not in, like...
So
I mean, look, check these out. I was actually thinking this morning, I really should get some new shoes. I really should get, like, a new pair of shoes.
Do you own any movie or TV show props?
Well,
Did you hypothetically borrow something from set?
As soon as I started to speak, I was like, oh,
I mean, you wouldn't have never taken anything.
I'll tell you a quick story, and forgive me if you guys have heard this one before. I'll tell you a real quick story. So because of this show, I got affiliated with the American Foundation for the Blind. And yeah, really cool. And it's been, that aspect of getting this job has been one of the great, byproduct benefits. And it's been incredibly rewarding. So I was invited to go to one of their annual galas, and they came to me and they said, is there anything you can donate for the auction, for the American Foundation for the Blind, for the silent auction? And I said, yeah, let me ask. So I went to the studio and I said, hey, I'm going to the gala for the American Foundation for the Blind. This was after season 1. And I said, can you guys, is there anything we can give them from the show to auction? So they came back and they said, yeah, we'll give you the red glasses, Matt Murdock's red glasses from the first season, and you can auction them off. So I was like, oh, great. So I took them, I had them framed, I signed the frame, and then I donated them to the, what happens is when someone wins them, you then send them. They just have a picture on the day. So anyway, I showed up to this big gala, and there's, before dinner, there's all these people walking around, and you can go and look at the items, and there's like 20 items, and there's like a holiday in Bermuda, and a boat, and a car, and, a free dinner, that kind of stuff. And then there's Matt Murdock's glasses from the show. Anyway, right before dinner, I just had a look, and there was only $200 on the bid. And I was like, what? Like, that's Matt Murdock's glasses right there. Anyway, so we went to dinner, and the dinner was at 7 to 10 or whatever, and then but the auction closed at 9. So 2 hours into the dinner, like 8:45, I went to the loo, went to the toilet, and I snuck back in. And everyone was at dinner now, it was empty. And I looked back, and the bid was only $250. So I bid on them. I put down $500, and I won them. But the really embarrassing thing was, at the end of the night, you have to go and buy the item that you won. So then I showed up to buy them from the woman who I donated them to. And she was like, which did you win? I was like, I won the glasses. And she was like, so I guess pay for them and then just send them to yourself. And I'm like, I'll do that. So I have the glasses at home. It's pretty cool.
When walking around Comic-Con, do you shop for anything?
You know, I usually don't walk around just because I'm normally quite busy and other reasons. But I actually had a walk around yesterday. You guys are like really respectful. So I was walking around the convention yesterday. I did do something quite fun at the New York Comic Con. I had a free couple of hours. I was meant to go. Had a panel. I was meant to go back home, but there was a really bad rainstorm, so I was just stuck in the convention. So I had a friend go and buy me a Spider-Man mask, and I put it on, and I went out into the convention just to walk around and see it for the first time. I'd never been out, and then I started seeing people dressed up as DD. So what we did is me and my buddy Sean, who was with me, we would go up to guys who were dressed as DD, and we were like, "Hey, can we take a photo with you?" And they would be like, "Sure." And then we'd be like, "Oh, no, my phone is dead. Can we take it with your phone?" So the guys would be like, "Okay," and hand us his phone. And then I would take the mask off and take a photo with a guy in DD. And then I would put it back on and give him his phone back and walk away. And so we didn't, for the most part, we didn't get to see people's reaction because we gave them the phone and then went. And initially they were like, "Why did that person want a photo with me and then with my phone and then walk away?" And then they'd look at the picture and they'd realize. So, but what we did do is I don't really know how social media works, but one of the guys at Marvel social media, he went online and he did a lot of like searching because people tag stuff, right? So he found, I think we did like 7 or 8 people, and we found 5 of them on social media. It was really cool, and they'd posted it and been like, "Oh my God, I was walking through the convention, and then someone asked me for a photo, and it turned out to be Charlie," and like, it was pretty cool. So I'm going to do it this year as well, so if you guys want to dress up as DD and walk around the New York convention, you may get lucky.
What would surprise people to learn about you?
Well, evidently that I'm British. A lot of people like get to the, like, if they come and meet me at the booth, they'll be like, "Oh, that's weird."
Do you remember what got you interested in being an actor? Was it a performance? Was it a movie? Do you remember that initial spark?
Yeah. So I went to, as I told you, I went to boarding school, and on the weekends, we would all go. My school was a boys' school, but there was a girls' school like half a mile away. So on the weekends, we would all like go and meet the girls and like chat with the girls. But when I hit like 14, I got like really bad acne. You guys call it that? Like my skin just exploded. And I was really embarrassed, man. You know, I was really shy, and I didn't really want to go and meet girls. Those teenage years can be rough, you know? So I had to come up with an excuse for why I didn't want to go and hang out with my friends. So the only excuse I come up with was if you got involved with theater, you had to rehearse on the weekends. So that was why I got into acting.
So you're literally an actor because of acne.
Yeah, there you go. So, you know, in the end, it goes to show you some of the worst things have a great silver lining, you know.
I think we all know the answer to the next question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What TV show have you watched all the way through more than once?
Yeah, only Friends.
Right.
Actually, hang on, that's not true. There's another show that I've seen. I can't remember what it is. Yeah, Friends.
What movie have you watched the most?
Toy Story.
Have you seen it? Have you seen it?
Isn't that a great movie, Toy Story? You know what? Like, and also like really good kids films or like films for like the whole family. When they're when they're bad, they're really bad. But when they're good, I just think they're so brilliant. When you find a kids movie that's made for the whole family, so that, you know, the children really love it, but also there's enough sophistication in there for adults. Like another one for me is Hook. I just think Hook is so good. I just got a real resentment against Rotten Tomatoes because they gave it like 50%. How do you give Hook 50%? That's one of the great movies.
Do you like? This is a random thing, but do you like Ratatouille?
You know, so I've never seen Ratatouille, but the reason I've never seen Ratatouille is Ratatouille came out the same week Stardust came out. Yeah.
I understand.
London.
Say no more.
In London, and as a result, I never got around to seeing it. Is it good?
It's really good.
Is it better than Stardust?
Matthew Vaughn landed on his feet. Favorite movie theater snack?
Yeah, I'm not a popcorn. I don't like popcorn.
Do you have a specific coffee order?
Yeah, recently I got really into hazelnut.
So is it like a hazelnut latte?
Just the iced coffee with a hazelnut.
I'm about to open it up, by the way, to people for.
These are questions you guys have been dying to know. Right?
By the way, this is called Get to Know. Oh yeah, exactly.
Oh, here we go.
So here's my last question for you before we open it up to the audience. You have at least 5 questions to answer over there. What is the background photo on your phone?
My daughter.
That's a very good answer. You have
my daughter wearing. My daughter. For those of you who got kids, what I'm discovering is you only learn they can do something when they do it. And you didn't realize they could do it. And the other day, my daughter went into she's just recently walking and stuff. And she went into her bedroom and she came out and she was wearing, in England we call them Wellington boots. You know, like, what do you guys call them? Boots?
yeah, boots.
Like, for the rain. She was wearing...
Oh, yeah.
She went into the bedroom and she came out wearing Wellington boots and shades. And I didn't even know she could put stuff on, you know what I mean? So that's the photo on my phone.
That's great. So just a reminder, if you ask a question, we're gonna try to do this quick because there's so many questions. We're gonna do what's called lightning round, which is we try to get through as much as we can. When you're done, you can take a toy. Just come up here when you're done, grab a toy. Thank you, McFarlane Toys, for giving us this huge pile of toys, or a comic book from Scorpion Comics. Do you want a comic? No. Just making sure. And the first question is?
So, as you pointed out, you are very British, and Matt Murdock is not. Also, you can see it, Matt Murdock can't. I'm just kind of curious what your process was like getting into the physical aspects of that character, because they are kind of difficult to play.
Yeah, the visually impaired aspect is probably the most tricky. I worked with a guy called Joe Strechay. He's become a good friend of mine. He's been legally blind for 20 years. And you know, it's hard to do on camera. I find it very tricky, and it's also an aspect of the character that I think is imperative that you get right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I just spent a lot of time with him, working with him, filming him. A woman in the street once hit me because I was filming him. I was filming him with his permission because I was trying to learn his cane technique. But she didn't know that. She thought this woman in New York thought I was filming a blind man. And she came up to me and she went, "Oi, that's rude!" and hit me. Just working with someone and trying to get it right. Thank you. Great question.
Please grab one of the whatever toy you want.
What are you going for?
What are you taking?
A comic. You want a comic?
Oh, you want a comic?
Hey, Charlie.
Hey.
Quick question. What would you say your favorite scene is from all of the 3 seasons you've done as Daredevil so far? Not including the new one.
Well, okay. So we have a scene coming up that I think I'm not going to talk about at all, but there is a specific scene from season 3, which everyone is very excited about. I'll put it that way.
Is it a dialogue scene or an action
I'm not
scene?
saying anything about it, okay?
But
that may be the answer. But from the first 2 seasons, and it may seem like a strange choice. I just thought the way this show had been structured to lead to this moment, when I read it, I got goosebumps. I thought it was so cool. And it's the scene in season 1, episode 6, where Matt Murdock and the Russian have fallen through the roof into the basement, and they're trying to get out, and then suddenly you hear this voice, and the voice is, "Can I speak to the man in the mask?" I literally just got chills. I remember reading it and just being like, "This show is so cool." Feeling so lucky that I was part of it. And you realize that it's Wilson Fisk because he has access to the cops' walkie-talkie.
Right.
And then filming that scene, the first time that Fisk and Daredevil talk over walkie-talkie, I just thought that scene was so cool, man. So that's the answer.
Comic
Thank you.
or toy?
Toy.
Pick one.
What are you going for? Very cool.
Thank you, McFarlane Toys.
Okay, I don't know if you feel comfortable answering this question or not, but what was your favorite season to shoot? Well, the funnest, I'd say.
You know, it's really hard. I've loved them all so much, but I would probably say, personally, season 2 was the hardest. It was, you know, those around about episode like 5, 6, 7, 8, when Matt Murdock, when Daredevil is trying to do the Frank Castle trial, and at the same time he's going out with Elektra all night, and he's trying to balance these two aspects of his life, and he's trying to keep all these secrets. And it's like he does, like I was breaking down the script during that time and trying to work out, like, when is he sleeping? And the answer is he wasn't sleeping. But as an actor, that was like that was so fun to do, to see Matt Murdock, who usually is very composed. He's very, when he's, especially as the lawyer, he managed to keep his cool. And it was just to begin to see that character start to come away at the seams. It was just really fun as an actor to play with that. Thanks, great question.
Comic or toy?
Toy.
We're going to see and the pick is... You can ask your question while we're...
Hi. What is the most important personality trait of your character, or the trait that stands out the most to you?
Wow. I think it probably sounds like an obvious answer, but I think what I love about Matt Murdock is I love when we get to play with his fear, and I know he's known as the man without fear, but I really like when we get to see how human he is, and how the adversity that he faces causes him great fear. Like I think he finds what he does, and as well as being kind of morally confusing, I think he gets very frightened. But what Matt Murdock is able to do is he's always able to face the fear and to find the courage in order to do what he knows he needs to do next. Mm-hmm. And so, as a life lesson to people and to myself, I think that's my favorite thing. It's like, whenever you're faced with fear, often there's two paths. There's the path of continued fear, or there's the path of courage, which often requires you to do. When you speak to your friends or you speak to someone and they say like, "Oh, I know I've got to do this. I just don't know when I'm going to do it." And often that knowing inside of you that you have to do something, finding the courage to actually see it through, that's really cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Comic or toy?
Toy, please.
Hi, it's been really cool seeing a superhero who has a disability that his powers don't completely solve that disability for him. What has been the most difficult part of playing, someone who's blind been for you?
Do you mean other than the performance of it?
Yeah, just any aspect of it. What was the most difficult part for you?
I just think that it sounds like a weird answer. Sometimes it's really important to me that it's really important to me that when we're shooting the show, And when we get into like the story and the episodes are like very heavy plot based, and like the plot is thickening and there's more things going on and Matt Murdock's up against it and Daredevil's got to try and like figure some stuff out. It's really important that we don't brush over the complications and the difficulties that a man who's visually impaired is faced with. It's too complicated to go into now because it would take too long. But, when we film a scene with Matt Murdock walking down the street with his cane, often in movie time, we don't have a lot of time to tell the story of how he navigates. We see him walking for a split second, and then we see him arrive at the building or wherever he's going, right? In real life, just figuring out when you get to the end of the sidewalk, or knowing when you can cross the street, and if you need to make a left, knowing where the building ends and the new sidewalk begins, and all that kind of stuff. That's a real process, and so I always try and encourage us to show that as being not just some guy banging a cane and walking down the street and getting where he needs to go. Getting on the subway if you're visually impaired can be a real ordeal. You know what I mean? And so it's difficult because I know we're making a TV show and it's about drama and it's about excitement and it's about all those things. But at the back of my mind, I'm always trying to make sure that we do the fact that he is one of the only superheroes with a disability. We do that justice. Thanks for asking. Great question and great hat.
Toy or comic?
Hi. If you had a choice of any Marvel character to team up with, MCU or otherwise, is there someone that you would choose?
Yeah. Again, I have to be really careful here because.
Let's say outside of your world, maybe.
You know what's funny? You've definitely learned that anything you say can be literally. How many
times? We're going to see Ant-Man walking like in your show. So.
I'm sure I can say this. I'm sure I can say this because, well, I'm going to say it. And I'll just preface it by saying I can't see how this would happen. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But I have no information suggesting that this would ever happen. But it'd be really cool it'd be really cool to see. I'd love to do something with Spider-Man.
Spider-Man season 3, we got it.
Very good.
Thank you.
That's very funny. What's your name? That's very funny.
I was going to say, I think everyone in this room and around the world would also love to see you with Spider-Man. Toy or comic?
Hey.
Speaking of Spider-Man.
So I was wondering, what's your favorite memory from working on Stardust?
Robert De Niro.
He was great.
Well, when we started shooting that, I remember when I found out that De Niro was going to be in the film. Mm-hmm. I remember when I found out they were going to meet with De Niro, and I'd already been cast, and I remember thinking, that's not going to happen. That's a waste of time. And then they found out he was going to do the film. And then I was like, reading the script, and I was thinking about the scene where he dresses up like a woman and dances in front of the mirror. And I just remember thinking, like, how's that? What's going to happen? Do you know what I mean? Like, how is that going to? Does he know? Has he read that bit? I mean, like, I was thinking, is it going to be removed from the film? I just couldn't fathom. And then I remember the day of that scene, just being like, I just feel like this is so weird. I just couldn't imagine it. And what was really fun is when we started showing the film at like festivals and we went to the premiere and people had no idea what the story was or anything. I remember when that scene first plays and you see De Niro in the dress, like dancing. I remember people would yelp. Some with horror and others with just like thought it was the funniest thing they'd ever seen. You know what I mean?
It was very funny.
Now that it was 10 years ago now, and so it's kind of those people who saw it, it's kind of just part of history. But at the time, I remember, like, I'm thinking of Raging Bull. You know, I couldn't believe that was going to happen. So,
Well, thank you.
thanks.
Come on up, toy or comic?
Hi.
So my question would be, if you could voice act Daredevil in any cartoon, what would it be and why?
Say again?
If you could voice act Daredevil in any cartoon crossover, like Daredevil in a cartoon as a cartoon Daredevil, what cartoon would you want to see Daredevil in?
Yeah. It'd be cool if there was I mean, it's very fitting for this convention, but it'd be cool for it to be the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Wouldn't that be cool? Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Toy or comic?
Toy.
What's up, Spidey?
Hey, what's up? My question was, in the first season of Daredevil, when you had the black mask over your face the whole time, could you see well out of that mask, or did like the directors have to be like, watch out, you're gonna walk into a wall?
I think the operative word there would be, can I see well? I wouldn't say I could see well. Like, I could see some. You know, like, we have an amazing stunt team. And so there was definitely a few fists that I did not see. But, you know, it was doable. It depended on how dark the room was, but you could see more than you think you could see. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Toy or comic?
So,
Hi.
hi. On set, the fight scenes seem dark. Is it actually like that on set, or is it brighter?
You mean the filters that they use?
Yeah, it makes it seem really dark. I was just wondering.
No,
if it is.
that's something. I mean, sometimes the scenes are quite dark. That's something that the showrunners and the creative people at Marvel decided at the beginning, as they wanted the show to feel very oppressive and dark, and like it takes place at a period of time and a period of day in general where there's a sinister kind of feel to the world, you know, and it's kind of reminiscent of, you know, films shot in New York in the 1970s and stuff. It's just got a kind of like a very, I guess like a darker edge to it, you know. You know, they do that. I feel like they do that in the comics. You know, if you go back and you read Guardian Devil, like a lot of those panels, the colors that they're using, the shades, it's very dark. You know, sometimes I feel like season 1 was a little too dark. Some of that is lighting, some of that is filter. I don't understand all the camera stuff as much, but
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
The comics are now up there with the toys.
Hello, Charlie. Yeah. My question is that you already talked about Robert De Niro in Stardust, also Vincent D'Onofrio. How was it to work with Steve Buscemi in Boardwalk Empire? And also, like, you know, what was like? Do you have any good stories about working with him?
I don't think I have any stories. What I will say is that of all the people I've worked with, Steve Buscemi is probably the nicest human being I've ever worked with. I mean, he's just shockingly nice and and was really great for me as a relatively young actor to work with the lead of a show who was that kind and professional, and you know, that's how you learn. That's how people learn how to be themselves, you know, and I just felt like he was an incredible influence for me. I've been really lucky, man. I've been really lucky to everyone I've worked with. I don't feel like I've worked with any terrible people. They've all been lovely, but he stands out as one of the nicest, I think. Yeah.
Right, thanks, man.
Thanks.
Hi. How comfortable was the armored Daredevil suit to wear on set?
Like the very first one?
Yeah.
So there was a Daredevil suit for the final episode of season 1. And a couple of episodes of season 2, I think. That was not very comfortable. That was like the first try, and it wasn't very comfortable. And then they reinvented it a little bit, and they kind of took away he had like armored protection around the wrists and the ankles, and they took that out, and they kind of just redesigned the shape of it a little more. And that was that was actually genuinely quite comfy. The only difficulty with the suit itself is when we film in the winter, it gets very cold because it's like kind of plasticky. It's kind of like the material, and so that takes on the temperature of at the outside. And so there would be nights when we'd be on a rooftop at 3 a.m. and it was very cold. Thanks. Good question.
Hi. Hey, was there a particular run in the Daredevil comics that you drew greater inspiration from when you were interpreting the character?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Bendis Malieve stuff is the hardest to beat tonally when it comes to this show. There's been a number of really great runs that I've enjoyed immensely that I've used. I often go back to the Brubaker Lark stuff. I thought that was really, really fun, and the colors in that are great, and the storyline's fantastic. Obviously, I mentioned Guardian Devil, and of course, Joe Quesada is very closely affiliated with the show, so that's really helpful to have him as a resource. You know, and also, I'd be remiss to not mention Frank Miller. You know, the Born Again is just so special. But at the beginning of every season, when I'm getting ready to start shooting and I want to just dip back in and just reread some of my favorite stuff, it tends to be the Bendis Malieve stuff.
Got it.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Thanks.
One comic book left and some toys.
I was curious on how you obtained the part, or what the audition process was like for you.
Yeah, you know, I got a call about an audition. It was a secret. They didn't tell us what it was called or what it was. I just had some lines. Some of you may know, but the story I tell is that I didn't know the character was blind in my first audition. So I didn't do that. And then, you know, it was quite a rigorous process. I went to, I had an audition, I had a Skype. I was then allowed to read the first 2 episodes, and then I had to fly to LA to have a screen test, and then I had a meeting, and then I had another screen test, and then eventually I got the job. So it was a real process. Like I was really jumping through a lot of hoops to get it, but when I eventually got it, I went down to sit with one of the chief creatives at Marvel when I'd now been cast. And we were chatting, and he kind of said, yeah, I was watching Boardwalk Empire a few years ago, and I was like, that's the guy who's going to play Matt Murdock. I was like, wow,
Nice.
wish I'd have known that. Cool, thanks. Great question.
What did you do before you were an actor?
I was at school.
Oh.
Yeah, I was at school. I was at school, and I started acting, and then I left school, and I needed to make money to audition for drama school because I wanted to train as an actor. And to apply to drama school, you have to pay. So I worked as a photographer's assistant, and I worked in the evenings. I worked at a restaurant. I waited tables, and then I got really lucky. I got my first job, my first film. I played Tom Hardy's brother in a film, and then after that I went to drama school. So did odd jobs here and there, walked dogs at one point, not very well. Thank you, great question.
Take one of whatever you want.
Yes, I was hoping you can tell us a behind-the-scenes story for the set of The Defenders. I want to know who was your favorite actor to work with on The Defenders.
Look, they're all great guys. And they're those guys are very different as well, and we had a really, really good time together.
Can I just ask, did you ever go out as a group for like dinner and have everyone stare?
Oh, do you know that story?
No.
Oh yeah, that's a good story. He just reminded me. So there was one day where, episode 4, I think, we're all in the Chinese restaurant. Yeah, you know that one? And there was one day where they were shooting and they were using our stunt doubles because it was like there was a rig, which means there's some sort of explosion, and when they do that, they can't use the actors for insurance reasons. So there was like a couple of hours where we were just sitting around, and And then I realized that the set was really close to one of my favorite Japanese restaurants in Brooklyn. And so I text the other guys. We were on a text chain. I text the other guys, and I was like, hey, do you guys want to go and get sushi? And you're not really supposed to do that, especially in costume. But I was in the suit. I wasn't in the Daredevil suit, and the other guys don't really have costumes in the same way that I do. So they were like, sure. So we snuck out. We went to this restaurant, and it was only like 5 p.m., so it wasn't busy. And we sat in the corner and we had this meal, and it was really fun. But what was funny is, as we were walking out, it was like quite a skinny door or hallway from this restaurant. So we had to walk out one at a time. And as we were walking out, like there was a guy who was trying to come in, and it went like this. As we walked out, he went, "Oh, no way! Oh God, no way!" Like one at a time as we came out, and then the last person was Mike, was Luke Cage. He was the last person, and as the guy came out, he just went, "Oh!" It was so cool. It was very funny, man. So that happened, but yeah, there's your anecdote. Thank you.
That would have been me, by the way.
Yeah.
Thank you. By the way, Stardust is my Matrix.
Oh, thanks, man.
I was wondering, prior to you taking this role, did you ever have any sort of martial arts or boxing experience, and what martial arts or boxing experience have you gained since the role?
No, none. I got all from this job. And the only experiences I've just been training with the stunt team, you know. I don't really know I know that we, as a character, we incorporate lots of different martial arts. We think of Matt Murdock as someone who's trained in many different martial arts, but he's more of like a pub brawler, like, you know what I mean? He's more like his dad. So he doesn't have to be technically perfect. But I don't know the names of what we do. I don't have time to learn the names. I just learn the sequences. And often they'll be like, oh, this bit's like Muay Thai, and this is Jiu-Jitsu, and this is that. And I'm like, cool, just tell me what to do. But no, everything I've learned has been from this show.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hello. I'm curious to know what your initial reaction to the Daredevil suit was at the end of season 1. Like when you first saw it.
You know, one of the things I've realized with comic book fans, people who are fans of a particular character, is that throughout the years there are so many different renditions. And I know I haven't read many of the other comic books from other characters, but I've read a lot of Daredevil, probably all of it now. And I know that the Daredevil from those first few issues in 1964, that Matt Murdock is very different from what Jeff Loeb did in Daredevil Yellow, and it's very different from the Bendis Malieve stuff. And you know, the last couple of years, that Daredevil also feels kind of different from the 80s, stuff in the 80s. Both in terms of the character themselves. I mean, it's the same character, but people interpret them slightly differently. They have, you know, there's some funnier and more dry. Other Daredevils are a little bit more sinister and dark and serious. And so one of the things I've realized is you're never going to please everyone. People have very different. If you try to do everything, you'll fail. It'll be too weird. You've got to pick one and go with it. And so when I read a script now, or when I saw the suit, what I liked about it was that it was bold, and it was specific, and it wouldn't have been right to do a bright red suit for our show. It would have felt weird. I felt you had to have that first season felt so grounded. I remember thinking, it's hard for me to imagine a person in a costume in this show.
Yeah.
So when it came out, I was thrilled because I believed that guy who'd gone around in a black mask with a black, just a black training top, and black cargo pants. I believe that guy. I don't believe that guy would go and put on the suit that Ben Affleck wore in the film. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He wouldn't have been able to do that. It would have been too much for him. But I believe that he could look at that suit that Melvin Potter, quote unquote, created, and because of the armor, and because of the protection, and because of the need for that, and because of what Father Lantham told him about being a symbol that can be feared, I believe that I can see him saying, "Yeah, I'll wear that. I'll put that on." And so that's what I liked about it.
Thank you.
I'm just going to say we're running out of time. We're going to try to get through a few last questions, but we're going to go real quick because, you know.
I tell you what, let's so there's no anxiety. Let's say 5 more questions. So if you're in the next 5, we'll do them. Otherwise, I don't want people to wait and then not make it. So the little boy's the last one. Okay, great. Thanks, guys.
Okay, thank you for coming. I wanted to say that. Daredevil's my favorite Marvel character. I've visited Hell Kitchen because I love it. It's Matt's city. Everybody's asked Daredevil questions. I recently watched an interview with you, and someone was asking you about accents, and you said you did a really good Northern Irish accent. And I hate to put you on the spot, but can you give us a little Northern Irish?
Oh God, man, it's been years. Oh man, I don't even. It's been so long. The funny thing about it is, I found with the Northern Irish accent is when you do it deep, when you go into it deeply, most people can't understand it anyway. It just sounds like it's just like a song, a song. I'm just trying to think if there's anything. I don't know. I'm not sure I know what to do about that. There you go. How's that sound? Not bad.
That's perfect.
That's not bad.
Oh, thank you.
I just remember this. I remember when you do, sounds like really boring and technical, but I find it really interesting. See if you can hear the difference. When you do, there's something called a plosive consonant. Like P is a plosive consonant. So if you say people, you spit it, the P's get spat out, people. In Northern Irish, they don't explode those consonants. I don't know why, they just don't. So most people wouldn't be able to hear it. I had to really train with someone who's a dialect coach. But they swallow the consonants. So if you're saying, if I say there are loads of people, did you ask this question? No, he's over there. He's bored. He's gone. He's like, this answer's way too long. So if you say, there are loads of people, in Northern Irish you'd say, there are loads of people. There are loads of people, and it's just a tiny little thing. But I remember thinking that was really cool. Thanks.
Sorry. So I had more of an acting question. So my question was, you've gotten to work with some of the best actors ever in a short time period as an actor. Who would be on your current bucket list if you could pick who you get to work alongside, the best of the best? Who would you pick?
Yeah, I don't think he does movies anymore, but Gene Hackman.
Oh.
Man, that guy, I think he's one of the greatest. Gene Hackman for me, there's many. And if I was to choose someone of my generation, someone of not one of my heroes, mm-hmm. It would be I really like that guy Oscar Isaacs. I think he's so talented.
He's a great actor.
I really like him, and there's a lot of really good acting around. But if I could pick anyone, it would be Gene Hackman. I just think that what he can do, how he can go from being in The Conversation or The French Connection, just that character and how dark and serious that is, and yet how funny he can be in Get Shorty or The Royal Tenenbaums. I just think that talent just blows my mind. So probably Gene Hackman. There you go. Thank you. I have a question for you. So remember I was telling you guys earlier about how I went out in the New York convention with a Spider-Man mask, like that. Can you put that on real quick?
Oh, sure.
All right, for those of you who have not ever put on a Spider-Man mask, I'm going to tell you something that I discovered very quickly that is not what you expect. But you wear that thing like that, turn around so people see you. You wear something like that. After about 5 minutes, you become acutely aware of how bad your breath is, man. I am not kidding. Like, I put that on, you're walking around, and then your breath is, you're breathing into this little bit of fabric, and then it just stays there. You know, and after like 10 minutes, I was like, oh my God, I gotta take this. It's like, so I had to like start putting it up and walking around with just like this, because I couldn't take it off, because it was in the middle of the convention, you know? Anyway, maybe that's just me. Thanks, man.
Grab one of the toys.
All right, if you had to convince someone to watch your show Daredevil, how would you convince them to watch it?
Huh?
If you had to convince someone to watch Daredevil,
yeah,
how would you convince them to watch it?
I would say to them, go to Las Vegas Comic Con, to the amazing Comic Con, and ask the crowd, should they watch Daredevil?
That will work.
There you go.
Thank you.
Like, good question.
And the final question of the day.
What's your favorite DC character?
It's allowed because you're a kid.
Probably Joker. Probably Joker. Can I?
Oh, definitely.
Okay, have we got any under fours?
Under
4-year-olds. Under 5. 5 or under. Where? 5 or under. Come on. What's your name?
Antonia.
Antonia. Come on, come and take one of these, Antonia.
Antonia.
There you go. You come and take one of these, my darling. All right, under 6. This guy, come on, would you like one of those? Do you want to say your name? We got Batman here.
I'm Noah.
Noah. Is that Noah? That's Noah. Under 7. All right, basically, if you're a kid, come on. There's only a few left. Go on, go straight ahead.
Oh, we only
okay,
have
and
a few.
stop there.
Yeah, we only have 7 left. What do you want? How about this?
All right, thanks, guys. God bless you so much.